Hello, hello, welcome back to the Craft Scraps. I am Lauren, and today we are going to be doing a super easy DIY bride jacket, yet another bride jacket. I did my bride jacket back in, I don't know when I did that, maybe 2020 or so. Worst year ever. Well, no, it was the best year ever because we got married. Anyways, I digress. Let's get to the point. So today I'm going to make this bride jacket, and I'm also just going to share some quick tips and tricks for HTV and iron-on to make it easy. So this jacket is pretty simple. I'm just going to come over here and make a text box, and I'm going to type out Mrs. Not in all caps, Mrs. Cole. And I'm going to come over here to the font, and the font I'm going to be choosing is this Flower for Rosaline font. It's from Font Bundles. I hope it's still available. It's free. It's amazing, and it comes with a commercial license, so you can use it for whatever you want. And so it is also a kerned font, so it is basically ready to go. The only thing I'm going to fix is this little E right here. So I'm going to ungroup it. So I just click the ungroup button here, and I'm just going to move that E a tiny bit closer. And then while I'm here, I'm just going to select only the bottom last name, and I'm just going to center it a little bit. And that is basically good to go. So now I'm going to reselect everything and weld it. So basically ungrouping it allowed me to move individual letters, and welding it back together, it's now one piece of text. And so now all I have to do is size it. So I'm going to come over here to this little lock. So basically what that does once you click it is it unlocks it. So now you can manipulate the text however you want. But if you want to keep the proportions, you can keep it locked like this, and it just kind of limits how you can adjust it. So I like to use the grid kind of as my ruler. So I'm going to do it by about 7 inches or so by a little over 4.5. Actually, make it a little bit smaller. All right, so now we can come over here to make it. And I'm going to be doing this on a mat because I'm just using regular HTV. And also we are going to want to mirror this by coming over here. And once I get on the camera, I'll explain to you why we mirror it. But basically, we're going to be cutting this out backwards out of the HTV. And when we go to actually iron it, we'll flip it. So when we press it, it'll be right facing. So that is basically it. So we'll come over here to continue. It will find our machine. I'm going to just cut this out on everyday iron-on, and I will switch you guys over to the camera so you can see how we're going to make it. Alright, so as I showed you, here is the jacket we are going to be making. So we are going to be putting the last name here on the back. It's going to look super cute. I just took it out of the bag, so it is a little folded, but once we put the heat press on it, it will be perfect. So the material I'm going to be using today is this Caesar Easy Weed HTV in black. As you can see, it's a brand new roll, which is a rare occurrence around here. Alright, and so if you're new to iron-on or HTV, there are two sides to the material. So there's this shiny side, and it's like a tongue twister. This shiny side is actually the carrier sheet, and then if you flip it over, the other side is more of like a matte finish. So that is the actual side we are going to cut out on. And so when we put this on our mat, we're going to make sure we want to have the shiny side face down. So we want to have the carrier sheet actually on the mat, and then it's going to be cutting out on this non-shiny side here. Also, I already mentioned this in Design Space, but you want to make sure that you mirror your image. So what that means is it's actually going to cut your image, let's say it's like we'll use this as an example, my create back here. So basically, if you were going to mirror this create image, it would basically flip it over so it would be backwards. So your letters are actually going to cut out backwards, and then when you go to actually iron it on, you flip it over so everything is reading correctly, and it'll make more sense once we get into it, but I just wanted to explain that for anybody that is a beginner. Alright, and so to cut this, I'm using my blue light grip mat, and mine is the 12 by 24, which is too big, and if you have a smaller mat, that's fine, but this is the stickiest mat I had. So like I said, now we are going to put our material on the mat, and so I'm going to make sure that this shiny side is face down. And so you're going to stick it to your mat just like any other material. Alright. So just as a reminder, we have our mirror on in Design Space, so it's going to flip our design. And also we are going to use the Everyday Iron-On cut setting. And so you can see it even tells you in Design Space, make sure mirror is turned on and iron-on material is face or shiny side down. So it gives you that nice little warning. Alright, and so now that we have our material and Design Space all situated, we can load our mat. So I'm just going to get it under those little teeth. Alright, and our arrows are blinking so we can load our mat. And then once the play button starts to blink, we can start cutting. Or if you have if you're using the Explore Air 2, this will look like a little Cricut logo, but either way, it's the same thing. You just click it when it starts blinking like it is right now, and it will start to cut. Alright, so our machine is done cutting, so again, I'm just going to hit those arrows to unload my mat. And I'm just going to take my HTV off the mat. So now what we want to do is we want to weed out all of the middle parts. So you can kind of like see where it's cut here. So first I'm just going to weed out like the middle of this O. Sometimes with HTV it's kind of hard to see. Alright, so those are the only like middles that we have. So now what we can do, this is like the fun satisfying part, is we can peel up a corner and weed out all of the excess. And this is really easy to do with HTV. HTV I feel like is a little bit easier to use than vinyl at times. It's just less temperamental. So I'm literally just peeling away and we'll be left with our letters. And if you didn't watch the Design Space portion of this font is called Flower for Rosaline. I got it from Font Bundles and it's my absolute, one of my favorite fonts. I use it for all of my wedding stuff. It's just, I love it. It's like so pretty. Alright, so I'm just continuing to get rid of all this extra. And so you want to make sure, I don't know if you can see that like little scrap right there, but we want to make sure that nothing gets left behind, because if it does and it happens to get ironed on, it's going to be not fun to try and get off. Alright, so now you can see that we are done, and we are left with our cute little iron-on decal. So now I'm going to get my heat press all set up and ready to go, and we will finish. Alright, so for the actual pressing, I am going to be using my Cricut. I don't know what this is actually called. It's like a little heat press pad. If you don't have one, no worries. Just make sure you're not pressing on something that can melt, like this table, for example. I've done it plenty of times before without this. This was a total impulse purchase, so it's not 100% necessary, but I do like it. It makes it all press really nice and evenly. But again, if you don't have a heat press, you can totally use an iron. I have plenty of videos with an iron, and if you don't have this, no worries. Just make sure you are pressing on a hard surface. Okay, so for this, I did unbutton it because the buttons, I think, will just make it way more difficult to press. Okay, and so like I mentioned, I am using my Cricut Easy Press. This is the version 2, and I think it's the biggest one that they have. It's like 12 by 16 or something like that. And also the heat setting I'm using is 335. The EasyWeed website says to use a heat press at 305, but for Easy Press it says add 30 degrees. So I am just going to preheat this first per the directions. Alright, so I just preheated this a bit just to make sure that all of the wrinkles are out, or most of them anyways. Sorry if the lighting keeps getting weird. I have to stand in front of my window to use my Easy Press, because you know what? We are working in the craft corner today. So, alright, now I'm going to apply my design just wherever I want it. So again, doing this with a camera in the way is a little difficult. Alright, and so now we are basically ready to press, and I think when you use an Easy Press, it says you don't need to put anything over it, but I personally like to use parchment paper, so I'm just going to throw a piece of parchment paper over it just to make sure I protect the jacket. Alright, so that is over, and now I'm going to just take my Easy Press, and I'm going to do it for about 25 seconds, as you can see here, and I am just going to press and hold. So I'm just going to press and hold and give it as even pressure as possible. Alright, and so now we can peel off our carrier sheet and we are good to go. Alright, and so that is it. I'm trying to show you this as best as I possibly can. It turned out so cute. I did just burn my arm with my Easy Press, but you know what? That's just what crafting life is like. So this turned out so cute. I'll give you a little close-up. So stinking cute. I hope she likes this. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, happy crafting.